So in this video I'm just going to be doing a bit of a commentary, bit of an analysis piece really on this map, which I recently put a video out for the Somme from a few weeks back. And in this video I'm just going to analyse how the battle played out and basically try and play it out again, but without any editing going on, just actually live in real time Men of War gaming basically. And I'm also just going to provide a bit of an overview of the tactics I think are best to deploy in this sort of environment on a battle like this. First thing I want to do though is give a special thanks to the creator of the World War I mod for Men of War Assault Squad, which is the details of which you'll find in the description of this vid. But it's still a work in progress, and I think the current ETA for the release is November 19th. But I'd like to just give a thanks to, I think it's Vaziki or Vazikal, I'm not entirely sure how you pronounce your name, but apologies. But thank you very much for giving me access to your mod in advance so I could do this video. So this is one of the maps from that mod, and I basically just modified it slightly and added units. I didn't create the actual map itself. I think it's a really good map. It's got a real eerie World War I quality to it. So this is kind of how the battle played out from a few weeks ago. So as soon as the mission starts, most of the British troops launch their assault. They charge across the trench into no man's land. And I experimented a bit with the artillery in this, and to begin with there was a vast amount of artillery pounding the whole area. Problem is though, is all the infantry were dying too quickly, and no matter how many infantry I spawned, they were just getting wiped out, so it was basically an unwinnable battle. So I had to be a bit careful about the balancing act between making it look cinematic and authentic, but at the same time making it a playable mission, because I wanted to try and win it, and I was using the troops to try and attack the German front line. So as you can see, they're advancing forward. Now the artillery there's a sort of mixture of artillery barrages and mortar fire, and it kind of gives a bit of a, basically essentially a sort of a little bit of resistance in no man's land. The MG fire, one thing I was a little bit annoyed about, I couldn't really achieve it, which is really a problem with Men of War Assault Squad really, was the German MGs. They didn't open up, they didn't start firing at the troops quickly enough, because I kind of wanted them to start firing now, but range is always an issue, but also the elevation, the way that they're in the trenches, means that sometimes they don't actually see the enemy. It's a bit of a strange one. But anyway, they start firing now, which is good enough really. I just wanted them to fire a little bit, a little bit nearer, a little bit sooner I mean. So this is where the sort of British troops, they get pinned down very quickly, and a bit of a bottleneck starts to form, and they become very vulnerable to artillery barrages. So I didn't actually do this in the original video, but an idea I've got here is I'm going to try to do some flanking manoeuvres. So I'm going to send a load of infantry to the sort of southern tip of the map, and also send a load to the northern tip, basically to try and bypass that middle trench, because that's where the Germans are focusing their defence, and that's where most of their troops are. So I'm going to give that a go. And one of the things I've always found with Men of War, and it's not really a criticism, but it just makes it difficult sometimes, is you can give a load of infantry an order to move to a certain position, but sometimes they just don't do it, and it's because they're pinned and they're under fire. So you have to keep highlighting them and telling them to move all the time. I wish sometimes there was a way you could override that, so you could highlight them all and just force them to just move to a location regardless of whether or not they're under fire, but it's a minor thing. So anyway, as you can see from the map, small pockets of British troops are now starting to head to that northern flank, and they can just sneak through the barbed wire. So there's German troops all around, there's mortar crews, artillery, but certainly the vast bulk of the German force is further down the trench line, so I can establish a bit of a foothold here actually. It's quite cool in fact. So I'm going to just do some micromanagement, use some of these troops. I'm going to just fire a few shots off to try and hit these Germans in the trench ahead. I can see one of them's opening up with a machine gun over there. Now in the actual video I put out a few weeks ago, I was using some sound effects for the machine guns because I think there's a bug in the game where there's no sound effects essentially for the German machine gun, the Maxim. I'm not entirely sure if that's the case in the mods or the game itself. I think the Maxim is in Maneuver Assault Squad, so it's probably an actual bug in the game, I guess. I'm not 100% on that. So anyway, I'm picking them off. I think they've seen me. So a few more troops coming in, just establishing a bit of a presence there, just trying to build up my numbers. As you can see, that the troops are still getting bombarded in this central flank. Lots of artillery, and the Germans do have artillery that's set to just react to enemy movements. Most of them have attack ground orders, so they're just attacking a specific point on the map, but some of them are free to do as they please. So they've breached the barbed wire and they're attacking head on. Let's see what happens. So immediately they get chewed up by some Maxims. You get close though, but there's just too many MGs in that area really. So I'm just going to highlight a few more, just try and build up more of a presence on that northern flank and the southern flank. Some real close artillery hitting. It's obviously an interesting time to be doing this video because we're heading towards November, and in the UK we have Remembrance Day coming up soon, which, although it's meant to be for all wars, all conflicts, I've always found that there's a certain poignancy about World War I. Certainly it was probably well, I'm not sure if, I guess World War II was more of a large scale conflict, but World War I was, there's something about the way that war was fought that still resonates with people. It's just horrific the way that war was fought, the artillery barrages and trench warfare, shell shock, and I think just a lot of what we take for granted nowadays with modern conflicts, a lot of lessons learned, tactics that are deployed on the battlefield, none of that was known about in those days, so there was a lot of trial and error going on, and the troops were kind of just used as fodder for generals to kind of play around and experiment with tactics. And I think the Somme was a prime example of that, because my understanding of the Somme and why it was such a clusterfuck essentially for the British was because the generals, Field Marshal Haig, believed that a continuous barrage, an insane artillery barrage that went on for days, I think, or weeks even, pummeling the German front line, would basically put an end to German resistance in the area. So then once deep, essentially the first day of the Somme kicked off, all the troops just casually walked out thinking that they could just walk into no man's land, head towards the German trench line, and there'd be no resistance. But obviously the reality of it was half of the artillery or more never even hit the target. I think it fell short. So the Germans were just ready, and the British lost, I think, 60,000 troops in the first 2 hours. Dead, killed or wounded, not all killed, but just horrific. So I'm just trying to creep up on the German forces here, so I've managed to move into their second trench line, and I'm just trying to micromanage some of these troops. I'm moving forward the infantry, trying to aim with these rifles, the Lee Enfields. The problem I find, it's kind of, again, it's a kind of flaw with the game really, is when you're in trenches trying to use enemy infantry, you can't can't really get the aim right because there's angles. You can't get the guns aiming upwards. Like the elevation's all screwed up. So I'm kind of shooting at their feet and stuff because I can't aim any higher. But it makes for a intense trench gunfight though. The other problem I find sometimes is they're using dead bodies as cover. The AI is, and I mean I don't think that's intentional. I think it's the case because there's lots of dead bodies in the trench. So you're firing at bodies, and then actual infantry who are still alive are popping up from the corpses. But it's a tough business, trench warfare in Men of War. You need vast numbers to overwhelm a position. So as you can see from the map there, I've already lost crazy amounts of infantry and not really made not much ground at all really. But I'm slowly ebbing away at the German position, just flanking. So I'm just gonna play around a bit here. So I've got my artillery. I'm just going to copy those units in the editor and just spawn a few more in, paste a few more, because I want to start doing a bit of a barrage, because otherwise I'll be here all day trying to win this battle. It just takes forever. So I'm going to just mimic kind of artillery barrage on the German position, because that's kind of how it would have been done really in real life, that is. Is that firing? I don't know. Oh, it's reloading. So I managed to copy a unit who was reloading their shell. So as a result, all these new units are still reloading their shells. Oh well. But I've been to the World War I battlefields. I went a few years ago, went to Belgium, and I'd highly recommend it if you're interested in the conflicts and interested in the history of the conflict. It's a real eerie atmosphere when you go to these battlefield tours, and if you've got a good guide, it's a brilliant experience. It makes for a fantastic few days, but very sad few days, very emotional few days. So I'm going to engage these Germans. Managed to sneak up on them from behind. There we go, nice. Just starting to creep forward a bit now, take these positions. And trying to engage that Morse recruit. The officers only have a pistol in this, a revolver. Let's see if we can get that Maxim crew. I can't quite get the, damn it. Can't quite get the angle, so I have to kind of pop up over the trench to get a shot in. Let's see if I can do it. Here we go. One down. Reloading. Oh damn it, got sniped. So I need to get the other one. He's probably the main threat actually at the moment, that forward facing Maxim gunner. He's in a really good position there. If I could take him out, then the few remaining troops I've got in the centre may be able to actually start to move forward. So I just use some artillery. But the World War I battlefield tour, like I say, very moving. I went to the Somme and Ypres, and one of the sad things is you see the mass graves and the unmarked graves for unidentified soldiers. There are thousands of them, and the mass graves though are particularly sad to see, I think. But there's some new DNA detection sampling methods that they've started to adopt now, where they can actually identify some of these soldiers even now and start putting names to the remains of these bodies, which is pretty fascinating stuff. There we go, direct hit, taking out the Maxim. So they've got that second line there, and there's still a few more Maxim crews in the second trench line. And you're constantly fighting for a couple of feet of ground. It's tough business, trench warfare, and trying to capture a position like this with, and like I say, I'm doing this with infantry, and so I don't know for sure if tanks were used during the Somme. I mean, obviously the British developed the first tanks during World War One, very primitive by today's standards obviously. I'm not sure if they did a lot during the Somme, I don't think they did. Most of them just got stuck in the mud, frankly. I think a lot of the time they did. It must have been quite a terrifying thing to see though. But anyway, the point I'm making is I'm trying to capture a position like this purely with infantry. And it's tough, it's a real tough slog. And it just takes forever. And the artillery really is what you rely on. But the problem is at this range, it's really inaccurate. So you've got to be patient, you've got to keep firing shots hoping you're going to get a clean hit. I'm probably going to do an attack ground order soon, start to really pummel the position. I'm going to deploy even more. But for those of you who haven't seen it and have an interest in World War One, I would highly recommend a film from 1999 called The Trench. It's a very underrated, not particularly well-known war film. I can't remember who directed it. I think it was the same director as the guy, I think it was the guy who directed Braveheart, I think, which is actually quite a cool medieval film, quite good battle scenes in that. Mel Gibson's actually quite good in it as well, I think. But The Trench is a very good film. It's quite, I think it was quite a low budget war film, but it's very well done. A very young Daniel Craig's in it before he was even that well known. He played a sergeant, and yeah, just very moving. Very good score, which is the score I used for the Somme video from a few weeks back, the main one. I think it's William Boyd, I think, is the name of the director, but I'm not googling that, so I may be completely wrong. So, as you can see, I'm starting to really pound the position now with artillery. Now the artillery I used in this video, it's not really historically accurate. I think these are actually World War II era pieces, but I just couldn't really identify World War One specific artillery, and I just got a bit lazy, frankly. I just thought I'd deploy stuff that looked like it could be from the era. Now, one thing I have noticed, and I'm sure many of you probably know this anyway, but I don't know if it was a patch that came through for Men of War Assault Squad recently, but you can now see spent shell cases by artillery, and it builds up and builds up and builds up until you get these huge piles of shell cases. It's a really nice feature. I don't know when that got patched in, but it's really cool. So Germans are starting to kind of fall apart now, really. There aren't many left. So it's kind of just a case of mopping up, really. We've only got a handful of infantry left, so they've got a lot of work to do. We've just got to creep around these trenches and finish off the last remains of the resistance, and then yeah, that'll be the end of the video. But yeah, like I say, I'm just putting this out there. I mean, I've had a few requests from it. I mean, I have a mix of people who, some people I appreciate like my videos when I do commentaries, whereas others prefer the videos where I don't do commentary, so I make them a bit more cinematic. And if I'm honest with you, nowadays I prefer doing the cinematic ones. But I do try to cater for everyone, so I will continue to do commentaries of this nature now and again. But for me, the enjoyment factor is actually in making videos that, for me, are an attempt to be cinematic style vids. They're the ones I enjoy doing the most, because yeah, the editing I do and stuff, that's kind of how I like to do it. Commentaries are fine though. I'm happy to do commentaries now and again. And I am on the lookout for other games, but there really isn't. I keep trying other games, and there's nothing that I stick with. I always end up going back to Men of War. It is the best RTS game out there, Men of War, as far as I'm concerned, and it's certainly for mission making, mission editing, and sandbox stuff. Being able to just deploy loads of units and see what happens when they have a huge battle. There's no other game like this. There really isn't anything like this at all. And it's realistic. When you download certain mods, it's really realistic and authentic. And it's got everything going for it. It's got the destructible environments, and it's got the really cool sound effects and the relatively smart AI, things like that. It's just an amazing game, Men of War. And people ask me which one's my favourite, and it is Assault Squad. Men of War Assault Squad 1, the first, is my favourite. Condemned Heroes was good, but I just prefer Assault Squad. I just find it has the polish to it that the others don't seem to have. And Assault Squad 2, I haven't really got into that, to be honest. There aren't enough maps for it. But I'm sure there are many now, but last time I played it, it didn't ship with many maps. Most of the maps I like are in the original. And frankly, it didn't seem that much different anyway. Graphically, it didn't seem a lot different. What I really want is just a really good Men of War Star Wars mod. I'm hoping that there's people out there working on one. I think there is a project, but it's been going on for a very long time. I'm not entirely sure if we're ever going to see that come out, but you never know. So the artillery's just doing its thing. So this is kind of how you do it, really. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this isn't. I'm not showing my skill doing this because there's no skill involved. All I'm doing is spawning artillery and pummeling a position with it. There's no skill involved in what I'm doing. I'm really just demonstrating how long it takes to win this sort of battle when you've only got infantry and artillery. And you've got to do a bit of micromanagement, like I say, when you use the infantry to just sneak through the trenches and clear them out. Yes, sir. So we've got a guy here, just a lone German troop, try and engage him. One down. Oh, there was two of them. One down. This is what I was talking about earlier. It's difficult sometimes with the infantry to aim, frankly. You just can't raise your gun high enough. You just don't quite get the angle. Just gets a bit awkward sometimes. I'm trying to just run it in, come on. Ah, oh, damn it, almost. So I just need to pummel that position with artillery, easiest option. One thing about the mods I've noticed is you can't use grenades at the moment, and as a result of that, I mean, I'm not sure how common it I think most troops during World War I would have had a grenade or two on them. Mills bombs, I think, were the grenades the British used. I've actually got a real Mills bomb from the Somme when I went to the Somme battlefields. They're always digging up old guns and all sorts of things, and they had a collection of Mills bombs. And yeah, I bought one, purchased one. It's fantastic knowing I've got an actual World War I Mills bomb from the Somme. Obviously, it's been deactivated and made safe, I hope. So, but anyway, the point I was making was it makes it even tougher when you're trying to clear a trench line when you're using infantry. You don't have grenades. I'm always right clicking thinking, right, I can throw a grenade in, but you can't, so you have to rely on your rifles and revolvers when you're an officer. So it's tough going. So I noticed there's a Maxim gunner still in that front trench line. Somehow he survived all of that barrage from earlier. So I'm now just absolutely pummeling it, and I think he's dead already. And I'm just going to start focusing on that area as well. Just doing some massive attack ground orders now. So they're just going to start bombarding the whole area. There we go. So when you get the view from high above like that, you start to get an idea of how many craters have now formed. Just because of continuous barrage. And this is the kind of thing you'd actually be dealing with in World War I in real life. Just a constant barrage of artillery, just cowering in your trench line. Look at that for a view. Just thousands of bodies. So we've got a lone German troop still holding his ground in that front trench. Wow. Let's see how long he survives, because I've got an attack ground order right on top of him. And the Germans are still firing the odd shell back now and again. Some counter artillery going on there. And I'll have to start focusing on those artillery guns soon to finish off the resistance, but not yet. So like I said earlier, I doubt very much that these are World War I era tracked artillery pieces. They're obviously from World War II, but like I said earlier, I just didn't have the time or patience to find ones that were World War I era. It was just too difficult. So yeah, somehow I've got a British troop all the way in that position. I don't know how he got there, but he can start taking on the artillery crews. Wow, one of my pieces got destroyed there. They're still firing back a bit. So I'm just going to focus the artillery on finishing off the Germans in that position right at the back of the map now. And we'll probably leave it there, I think. Probably be a few more minutes. Still got some troops, wow. So I'm going to roll those guys forwards. 2 guys left by the looks of it. Or maybe a few more. No, 2. Looks like 2. 2 or 3. So that 2 or 3, those 2 or 3 guys, they are the survivors of that initial assault. We're talking about thousands of troops I used, so yeah, it's amazing. cautiously taking the ground now. Oh no, they're getting killed. Friendly fire. It's just that German troop's still in that trench, I don't believe it. He's still there. So I'm going to have to engage him. Can't even see him. Oh, there he is. He's kind of slightly deformed, his legs are stuck in the ground by the looks of it.
Yes, sir.
Here we go. Oh, reload. Done. Finally. When he held his ground to the bitter end, that guy. And I guess now it's just a case of engaging the German artillery crews, and that's it really, it's done. So the amount of bodies, amazing. Come on, just get a direct hit. There we go. That will do, engine destroyed. He's facing the wrong way, so he's no longer a threat. Just out of interest, so the battle's essentially over now. I'm just going to swap sides and see if I can just fire a shot off, a cheeky shot at the British guns. Let's see if I can just get one lined up. For some reason that isn't even firing, that gun. I'm not entirely sure what's going on. I can't raise the gun up high enough, I can't elevate the... I'm going to get the angle right. Oh, I can fire. Oh, okay. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Let's just try a different one. I've got these two on this side. These look good. That's more like it. I just didn't have a target, didn't have a reticle for that other one, so I couldn't fire. Let's line it up. Oh, almost. Oh wow, look at that. See what I mean? That's what I was saying about earlier. That's a really cool look. So like, you've got those spent shell cases and the explosion caused them all to fly up in the air. And they're all just scattered around the place now. That's amazing. I don't know when they patched that in, but it's a really nice feature. So this is now just going to be a case of mopping up, so I'll probably switch back to the British, I think. I'm not sure if I'm going to get a hit in or not really with this German gun. Such an extreme distance you're dealing with now. I'll let those guys survive the vid. You don't need to kill every single enemy troop to win a battle. So yeah, there we go. Anyway, so yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. It's just a bit of an analysis piece, like I say. It's just to kind of open up this battle and show people what it looked like outside of the editing of the previous one. And this is kind of the bare bones version of what it looks like when you play it. And I don't intend to upload this to my Men of War DB group because it's the map is for the World War 1 mods and that's not available yet. So you can play this in November or when the mod's released. So yep, there you go, and I'll try and be putting out more soon, so stay tuned.